Okay everyone, this is my last video of the year, though it is not going to go up until the first of the year. This is my most anticipated for 2025, and I have a slop jar full of movies because there's actually a lot of movies that look pretty interesting that's coming out in 2025. Oof, this one was rough. There are some others that I would have liked to have added to this list, but in all honesty, I was getting a little bit tired of collecting all the information, and the list was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I shall attempt to be concise with this, but there's a lot to go through. I have 12 honorable mentions and a top 12. So let's go ahead and proceed with the honorable mentions. Oh, these titles within each list, the honorable mentions and the top 12, they are organized chronologically, not necessarily according to my interest level, but I'm interested in all of these. That's why they're on the list. Okay, let's get started with the honorable mentions. Part 1, Wolfman comes out pretty soon. In January. It is direct, and I do have notes here so that I can keep myself on track. I haven't watched the trailers, but the premise is that a family, they're at a farmhouse, and they're attacked by an unseen animal, and something happens to the father. It stars Julia Garner, and it is directed by Lee Whannell, if I'm pronouncing his name right. He's also the co-writer, and he directed Invisible Man, which a lot of people liked, and Upgrade. I like that movie up until the end. It was competently directed, so I'm having positive feelings about this. Also in January, Flight Risk. I did not realize until recently that this is directed by Mel Gibson. I did see the trailer for it and was a little bit aggravated that it seemed like they showed the entire plot. And then someone told me, well, maybe not. So I'm hoping that there will be things that will be a surprise to me as I'm watching this. It stars Michelle Dockery, Mark Wahlberg, and Topher Grace, and it's about a pilot who is transporting an air marshal accompanying a fugitive to a trial, and as they going over the Alaskan wilderness, and some stuff happens. Shady stuff happens, like with the pilot and whatever. So I don't know. It looks interesting, so I am interested in it. Then coming up in February is Love Hurts, starring, I've seen the trailers for this, wasn't interested in it till I saw the trailers. I do typically try to stay away from them if I think it's something I'll be interested in, but sometimes seeing them generates interest in me, so it's a mixed bag. This stars Short Round. Well, he's an adult now. I'm going to try to say his name, Ki-Hugh Kwan, and Ariana DeBose. And it's about this guy who I guess he had been like in a pretty rough life. Like he'd been, I think like his brother is a crime lord, and he had been in that life, and now he's trying to, walk the straight and narrow, and he's a realtor, and he gets caught up in elements of his past. It looks like a lot of fun. The trailer was entertaining. It's directed by Jonathan I'm not gonna say his name right. Eusebio. He's actually a stunt coordinator turned director now, similar to the guy who did the Extraction movies. He was also an assistant director for films such as Black Panther, 300, and John Wick. So hopefully the film will be as good as the trailer makes it seem. Okay, part 2. So in February, I just found out about this movie. This one on the far left here, it is called The Phoenician Scheme, and it's about espionage, and it stars, it's a big cast, y'all. Scarlett Johansson, Benedict Cumberbatch, Bill Murray, Tom Hanks, Benicio del Toro, Jeff Goldblum, among others. It's directed by Wes Anderson. You guys may be familiar with his work. I'm not a huge fan of his. He's a little quirky, but this seems like an interesting story, so I'm interested in it. Funny how that works, right? It's interesting. I'm interested. Okay, The Monkey. This also comes out in February. This stars Theo James, Elijah Wood, and Osgood Perkins. It's also directed by Osgood Perkins, who is the son of Anthony Perkins. He directed Longlegs, and that one ended up on my top 10 most disappointing, so we'll see what happens with this one. He wrote this with Stephen King, so maybe. We'll see. The synopsis is that twin brothers, they find their father's old monkey toy in the attic, and some deaths start happening. So Okay, looks fun. Mickey 17. This was another one that I hadn't heard about until I saw the trailer for it. It stars Robert Pattinson and Toni Collette. And it's directed by Bong Joon-ho. He's the director of The Host and Parasite, Memories of Murder. I enjoyed The Host, and I have not seen Parasite yet. I've heard Memories of Murder is really good. Anyway, if you haven't seen the trailer, the character of Mickey 17, he's like one of many clones of Robert Pattinson's character that's been created, and he's expendable. You know, when they've served their purpose or whatever, they're eliminated and then a new one is created. And from what I can tell by the trailer, it looks like something happens and there's two of them around at the same time. And it looks like just a bunch of craziness is going to happen. So I'm definitely going to be going to see that. All right, part 3. Novocaine. Saw the trailer for this a few days ago, and it stars Jack Quaid and Amber Midthunder, and it's about this guy who he can't feel pain. I mean, obviously he can be killed, but he can't feel pain. Something happens to this girl that he likes, like she's kidnapped or something, and so he's gonna try to rescue her. And as you can imagine, he's gonna get into all sorts of trouble along the way, and injury, even though maybe no pain. This is directed by 2 people, actually, Dan Burke and Robert Olson. I do not think I know any of their movies, but this looks interesting. And if I didn't say, this is coming out in March, but you can see it right underneath the thumbnail. So I've made it easy for you in case I screw up along the way. In April is this very under the radar type of movie that I don't think is going to get a wide release. I just have a feeling, I mean, and it's already got reviews coming in, so I think it has been released maybe a festival already or something. It's called Desert Road, and it's directed by Shannon Triplett. And I've seen her movies before, or at least 2 of her movies. She did I Am Number 4, which, though it wasn't the best film ever, I was entertained, and she directed Godzilla 2014. So I'm curious about this. Obviously, that's why it's on my list. I'm curious about it because it seems to be a time loop movie. It stars Beau Bridges, Frances Fisher, and Christine Froseth. I don't think I've ever seen her in anything, or if I did, I didn't know who she was. It's about a woman who crashes her car, and she walks down the road for help, only to end up right back at her car again, no matter which way she goes. So that's interesting. All right, in June, Megan 2.0. The plot is under wraps, but I have been hearing rumors or comments that she's going to be doing a Terminator 2 this time around. She's going to be the good guy helping. So we'll see. The director is the same, and it stars same people as, or the same main people from the first movie, Allison Williams and Violet McGraw. So looking forward to that one. All right, part 4. Nobody 2, coming out in August. I remember that Nobody was a pleasant surprise. I enjoyed it a lot. I think it ended up on my top favorites for that year, or at least in the list, honorable mentions or whatever. Main cast returns, and this one is directed by someone I do not think I've seen his movies before. I don't think he directed the first one. I did make a lot of notes, you guys, and I double checked stuff, but if I've screwed up along the way, I do apologize ahead of time. If I catch my mistake, I will put it up on the video as I'm editing it, but I do not believe this guy directed the first one, so and I don't think I've seen his movies before. So this is basically about same family and something involving his wife's past. Also in August is a movie called Mercy. I believe this is probably going to go straight to streaming. Maybe it's an Amazon Prime or Netflix film or something like that. It stars Rebecca Ferguson and Chris Pratt. It is directed by, oh gosh, I'm going to butcher his name. It's a Russian guy. It's the dude. I will maybe put his name up on the screen. I don't even want to, I'm going to butcher it. He's the director of Night Watch and Day Watch. And I saw Night Watch. I haven't seen Day Watch, but I did enjoy that. So I'm feeling a bit hopeful about this one. The premise is that a detective is accused of a crime and he's forced to prove his innocence. Obviously, not the most unique storyline ever, but it is something that is compelling to me. So I'm going to make sure to check it out. And in October, The Black Phone 2. Now, I am a little bit befuddled by this. Looks like the main cast is returning. How? Because if you know what happened with a certain character in the first one, I'm just not sure how this is going to work, but whatever. It's the same director. He's a good director. I really enjoyed the first one. Actually, Scott Derrickson, the director, I forgot to mention his name, he is directing another film that's in my top 12. So we'll see. I'm super curious. Okay, now proceeding on to the top 12. Here we go. Starting with, to be announced date. I have no freaking clue. It's supposed to come out in 2025. This is Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein movie, and it's about a doctor who tracks down Frankenstein's monster who they think had died in a fire 40 years before, but he wants to continue the experiments of Dr. Frankenstein. It stars Mia Goth, Oscar Isaac, and Christoph Waltz, which is interesting because while they were filming it up in Canada, my colleague ran into Christoph Waltz in the grocery store. He told us the story of that. He was going to go talk to him, just say hi, but he at the initial moment that he saw him, he decided not to because Christoph was getting like some nuts or something from a dispensary and like from some sort of, I guess, some place you can like put it in the container yourself, and they fell all over the floor. He dropped him anyway. Whatever. It's a whole thing. So I don't know. I like Guillermo del Toro in general, and I like horror-ish, morbid type stuff. So let's see. I'm curious. It looks like it's going to be a Netflix movie, so I doubt it's going to come to the big screen. What a shame. If it does, it'll probably be very limited. Okay, number 11. Coming out in February, I'm starting at the top of the year, going down to the end, The Gorge. This stars Anya Taylor-Joy, Miles Teller. It's directed by Scott Derrickson, same guy that I mentioned a couple movies ago, who had done, as I already mentioned, The Black Phone. He did Doctor Strange, and he did The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I forgot to mention that before, but talking about it here. This is about two operatives that become close after being sent to protect opposite sides of a mysterious gorge. There's some sort of evil that comes about and starts causing problems. I believe this is a sci-fi type of movie. Looks interesting, so I'm down for it. All right, number 10. Black Bag. I've been seeing trailers for this. I'm immediately interested because it's Cate Blanchett, Michael Fassbender. It looks like some espionage, spy stuff going on. Cate Blanchett and Michael Fassbender's character are husband and wife, and she's like suspected of betrayal, and she's an agent, he's an agent, and so as you can imagine, there's going to be conflicts that arise because of that. This is directed by Steven Soderbergh, and the trailer that I've seen makes it look pretty interesting. So I'm going to go see this when it comes out in March. All right, number 9. I'd been hearing talk about this movie a few months ago when another film came out and they were making comparisons between these two, and they were saying how Sinners did it better. Gosh, what was that other movie? Can't remember now. Well, whatever. This is directed by Ryan Coogler, who we know is a competent director, and it stars Michael B. Jordan. It looks like it's going to have some sort of, I don't know, demonic or evil spirit sort of thing happening, going on. That's what the trailer makes me think. It's about these twin brothers who return to their hometown to start over again, basically. Then it says, only to discover that an even greater evil is waiting to welcome them back. So, trailer looked good. So we'll see. All right, number 8. Also in April, The Accountant 2. I didn't find out about this movie until last week or earlier this week. It's a sequel to the 2016 film, The Accountant, which I really enjoyed. And it's directed by Gavin O'Connor, who directed the first one. It stars Ben Affleck, who returns, John Bernthal, and J.K. Simmons. All right, number 7. Until Dawn. This is based on a video game. I believe I have seen clips of that video game, or maybe my son was playing it, or somebody. I know I've seen clips of it. Anyway, it's about this group that spends a weekend at a ski lodge on the anniversary of their friend's disappearance, and they are not alone. It's directed by David F. Sandberg, who directed Lights Out, which I really enjoyed. That was a fun movie, y'all. It was a great horror movie. And the first Shazam. Don't think he directed the second one. If he did, I apologize for being wrong. It stars only one person that I recognize, Peter Stormare. You know his face. He often plays a baddie, so we'll see. The rest, I don't know. Okay, number 6, Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. This is not called Dead Reckoning Part 2 anymore. Now it's just called Final Reckoning. I do not know the synopsis. I have not watched the trailer, but I am automatically down for this thing. It stars Tom Cruise, Vanessa Kirby, and it's directed by Christopher McQuarrie. Number 5, in June, Ballerina. I have made no secret of my annoyance with the John Wick franchise. Did not watch the TV show. Gosh, I can't remember what it's called, but I am interested in Ballerina because even though I have indicated that I'm feeling like Ana de Armas is having a bit of overexposure, I still am almost automatically interested in whatever she's in just because of my familiarity with her early work from like way back in the day before she could even speak English when she was playing in El Internado. That was a fun show from Spain, and she's a very good actor. I enjoyed her performance in Knives Out and pretty much everything I've seen her in. She's quite good. This is directed by Len Wiseman, the director of the Underworld movies, or most of them anyway. It stars her, Ana de Armas, Keanu Reeves, Norman Reedus, Ian McShane, and Lance Reddick. I saw him in the cast, so this was obviously, or his portions were filmed a while back. She plays an assassin, says here, trained in the traditions of the Ruska Roma organization, and she is on a mission to avenge her father's death. So, yeah, looks interesting. Okay, number 4. Also in June, 28 years later, I have intentionally not watched the trailers for this. I've seen speculation about Killian, whether he was the zombie in the trailer or whatnot. Then I've heard, no, he's not, because he's going to be in part 2. This is a 2-parter. So I don't know if he's going to be in this first part. As you can see here, Jodie Comer, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and Ralph Fiennes is in this. It's directed by Danny Boyle. So yeah, I'm down for this. I enjoyed the first 2 movies. It's just basically a continuation 20 years later after the Rage virus. It looks like the bulk of the story is going to be taking place on an island. So someone's going to leave the island and bad stuff happens. All right, number 3 in October, Michael. This is directed by Antoine Fuqua, who made the Equalizer movies and Training Day. He's a good director, like his stuff. It stars Coleman Domingo, Miles Teller, and Jafar Jackson, Michael Jackson's nephew, who looks like a carbon freaking copy of the original MJ. I mean, he looks more like MJ than MJ probably, or at least MJ in his later years. This is self-explanatory. I am curious to watch this just because I have loved Michael Jackson ever since I found out about him in middle school. I did go through a time when I was not too sure about him, when all these allegations and stuff were going on, and I wasn't paying complete attention to all the facts of the case. And then later on, sadly, after he passed, I started reading up more about these things and read the book, The Michael Jackson Conspiracy by Aphrodite Jones, I think it was her name. It was very eye-opening, and I feel really bad for this guy. Yeah, he was quite unusual, but you cannot deny the talent he had, and he was a complex character, and I feel like he was very troubled in different ways. And the fact that he was basically not allowed by his tyrant of a father, who's going to be played by Coleman Domingo, was not allowed to have a childhood, that caused lasting damage to him, sadly. I feel very sorry for him and what he went through emotionally in his life. I feel like his growth was stunted emotionally in a lot of ways. I'm just curious to see how this is going to go and how good his nephew is going to play the part. Okay, my last 2. I'm going through this a little bit quicker than I thought. The Running Man in November. I initially was not interested in this because, it's a remake, and why? The Running Man is not my favorite Arnold movie. It's okay, but I'll tell you what made me change my mind. It's not because Glenn Powell's in it or Josh Brolin. No, what made me change my mind was finding out who the director is. It's Edgar Wright, who directed Last Night in Soho and Shaun of the Dead. I love both of those movies. This gives me more confidence about how this will be handled. So we'll see. We all know the premise of The Running Man, so I'm not going to go into that, but I'm very curious to see if this is going to live up to my expectation. It's very possible that I will enjoy it more than the Arnold movie. As much as I love Arnold, like I said, it's just not my favorite of his. We'll see what happens. All right, last one, you guys. The Housemaid. I read or actually listened to The Housemaid's Story earlier this year upon the recommendation of my sister-in-law. She had read it and she really enjoyed it. I started listening to it. I really enjoyed it. I started off being a little bit annoyed by the narrator, especially when she would play the part that is going to be played by Sydney Sweeney, the main character pretty much. I didn't like the dialect that she took on and voice she had. It kind of, I don't know, it grated on me a tad, but I'm sure it will feel differently when I watch the movie. This is about a woman who has had a troubled past and she is trying to start over. She gets hired by a rich family and it doesn't quite end up being the dream job that she was hoping it would be. Things, well, you'll see. If you haven't read the book, I don't want to give too much away, but I'm glad that by the time this comes out in December, it's actually coming out Christmas Day. I'll probably go see it on Christmas Day. I'm glad that by the time this comes out, there will have been at least a year, maybe a year and a half between the time I listen to the book and I'm going to watch this, because I know how it ends. So I know what's going to happen. And I know a lot of the details along the way. I'm hoping that a lot of that gets fuzzy and I forget a lot of the specifics about certain things so that whenever I watch it, I won't be annoyed by whatever changes they're going to make to it, because, you know, they always make changes. It's kind of part of it. So we'll see. It's directed by Paul Feig, F-E-I-G, if I'm saying that right. I don't know that I'm familiar with any of his work. Amanda Seyfried plays in it as well. She's going to play the rich wife. The guy who plays the husband, I don't know if I've seen him in anything before. I can't remember his name. I didn't write it down. So yeah, that is my top 12 plus 12 honorable mentions. So my 24 most anticipated. You'll notice there are no big name like MCU or DC titles on here because, quite frankly, I'm not super interested in them. I don't have plans to watch Fantastic Four or Superman. I might go see Thunderbolts. We'll see. Like I said, I probably could have added others to this list. There is a movie starring Rami Malek that looks a little bit interesting, but I didn't put it down just because there was so much I was already adding, because it looks like maybe 2025 has a chance to be better than 2024, which wouldn't be hard because 2024, to me, it feels like overall it's been a bit of a disappointing year. When I compare my favorites with the ones I had problems with, that list outnumbers my favorites, unfortunately. Maybe this coming year will be different. That's all I have for my most anticipated 2025. I look forward to watching all of these and talking about all of these with you, and whatever you guys are anticipating. We'll see how this year turns out. Whatever happens, I'm looking forward to the journey. Thanks for watching this, you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Adios.